A very good afternoon and welcome to a Farmer's Media. This is Mid Morning Show. My name is Boss Queen. I'd like to welcome you to this show. And today, being on what's the day today? 28th of June. My Muslim brothers and sisters, I like to say Alaikum Salam and wish you Eid Mubarak. And don't forget to invite us to eat that mbuzi and biryani when you're away after the show. Anyway, you can follow our social media handles at Farmers Media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and also on TikTok. And of course, BossQueen_KE on all social media handles. And to start with, today I'm having a guest in studio and I'm going to introduce him in the next few minutes. But for now, we're going to start with the topic of the day, of which we're going to discuss about the climate change in agriculture. How does it affect, how does climate change, how has it affected the agriculture? And also we're going to look at its resilience and adaptation. How are people taking it through? How are they absorbing it? And what solutions are they planning to adapt to solve the climate change factor? With me in studio, I'd like to introduce my guest today. And is said to be the one and only. Yeah, the one and only existing Noah.
Noah Nasali Kadima, the one and only.
The one and only
across
Noah.
the world.
Welcome to
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me today.
It's a pleasure.
Yes.
How are you?
Fiti.
Assalamu alaikum.
Hey,
You don't
you are
understand
so
that?
many too.
No,
Yes.
if you say salam alaikum, you're supposed to be like alaikum salam. That's the response. Ati ni kama ni kama
Take two.
to see if I wish tungekuwa sisi wote tungekuwa nasalimiana habari yako unarudisha yako habari. So it's not the same.
Yako habari yako habari. Brilliant, fantastic. At least
you don't have Muslim friends maybe?
I have hajaniarika bado. Sasa nimesema tu hata nikamnyonge.
Lakini ni kama there's a reason why
climate
when you hear
labda hiyo climate
no it's the name the name is suggesting from the west
uko naweza kumalizia chakula leo
you're like maybe we'll call you later.
Brilliant.
How are you doing?
Very fine. Labda wewe?
Good.
At least today it's hot.
Really hot.
It's a bit hot. It's hotter than yesterday. Yesterday was very cold.
For me, I still feel the cold.
Labda pale unatoka.
Where? I'm up in okay, so I don't want to go there though.
Brilliant.
So welcome to our studios.
Thank you very much.
Those who doesn't know you, introduce yourself once again.
So my name is Noah Nasali Kadima, the one and only across the world, across all the continents. I'm a climate smart expert.
Climate smart expert.
Having learned so much through experience. And so I've said, let me also get to share what I can
knowledge,
exactly with especially with smallholder farmers. My area of expertise is in soil health and soil conservation, basically where you start farming. That is where
the core.
That is where I sit here.
How do you call it? The foundation.
The foundation, the base of everything. Yes.
Agriculture.
Yes.
So today people are going. Those who doesn't know, I know climate change hasn't been so familiar with so many people because it takes time for it to change.
Yes.
That's why people haven't been following up, but it has come to a point whereby it's happening right now where people are more of open-minded and more of learned and they're ready to learn and get to know about it.
Yes.
So it's a pleasure having you around and to start with, let people understand first. What is this, the climate thing? What is this?
Very, very interesting.
In a simple
language.
Yeah.
I think climate I can actually relate to basically weather. So climate would be all the factors that are considered that give us now weather patterns, because that's the same thing, and that is now what happens when we say climate change. The weather has changed, and when to talk about weather, we're talking about things like precipitation, things like rain, things like the basically like temperature has risen or gone down.
Humidity,
Yes, rain patterns has also changed.
Also the solar.
Exactly. Yes.
Radiation.
Yes. Exactly. So all that in a nutshell is what now is referred to as climate.
Okay.
Yes.
So basically, it's the weather changes, but
in more detail. So it's weather changes, but now in more detail. That talks about now things like the ozone layer. You know, things like the CFCs, chlorofluorocarbons across the greenhouse gases. You know, and the emissions, the carbon emissions themselves. Yes.
Okay, I heard while I was still studying back then. I did agriculture.
Really?
Yeah, I did agriculture, and I
In
really
primary
performed.
school?
Not in primary, high school, and I really performed. It used to be my favorite subject, and I used to love it so much. So there's this teacher who once mentioned about climate. You know, it exists in that, and she was like, for climate change, it takes roughly 35 years for it to like evolve. Is it true? Like approximately for it to change, like you are used to like from maybe on the month of maybe March in Western region, March, April, May, you expected rain.
Rain, yes.
So it takes like 35 years for it to change to be like the next 35 years
there would be no rain.
Haitakuwa from March in May.
Well, I think that can be taken that way, but looking at the conditions right now, a lot has changed, and at a very fast rate, and that's the reason why it's important to have these discussions now, because the weather patterns are changing every day. For example, and there's so many things that are also affected. Hence, the reason why it's important to have these discussions now. If you look at now, Mombasa, it's raining. Yeah. It doesn't rain in Mombasa in June. It never rains in June in Mombasa. But now it's raining. It's been raining since I think April, and that way you see that already that is a change. Yeah. We've not had successful rains for the last 4 years now, since 2019. So that is already an aspect of it that we can say. We cannot pinpoint and say it will change after 35 years. But now, probably now, as a topic of the day, we are now talking about now things like resiliency and adaptation. You know, because the impact is there. Impact we can see. Number one impact, county 034, is the dust. That's already the most impact of climate change. You reached out and people wonder you
should do something. Let's say. They dig balls and they put sprinklers
all over.
all over. You know.
Or they just tarmac the roads.
Okay, tamaking, even still they won't tarmac the whole of it. I know it can happen, yes. But at least sprinklers will help to help the
reduce the dust.
Grass to grow.
Yes,
and you'll have a cover.
Yeah.
So at least that one will help to reduce. That one is a lifelong. Tarmac.
The long-term thing.
Will take some short time and then start having the potholes and all that.
Yes.
Yeah, but
brilliant.
Something should be done.
Definitely, something has to be done very, very, very soon. Otherwise, the dust, my friend.
I hope the government is listening.
It depends which government.
The county government.
The challenge in Kajiado, we have some national government roads and the county roads.
Government.
So now there's no money for salaries. Will you construct roads?
We are paying taxes. We are paying taxes.
Well, then you assume too. I didn't hear that one.
We are loyal taxpayers. Come on.
Yes. I think something that is very important for the development of an area. Bringing in, considering the number of investors are in Kitengela, just in Kitengela alone, and also Kajiado being a rich county, I think some of the basic infrastructure needs to be addressed, so that even farmers can access better transport services to take the produce to the market. But now you find farmers getting stuck with produce, in even just not far, just around Bisil here, because the roads when it rains, they're impassable, and just the condition of the roads escalates the fear of people who have trucks or pickups to fear like, hey, if my vehicle goes on that route, it might get stuck in mud or things, or it's too rough, So those are some of the aspects to be considered, and that again is an effect of climate change, as well
Okay.
as as well as human activities.
Which activities are you considering as
No,
human?
for example, just the way we cut down trees. How many trees have you seen in Kitengela?
Countable.
Yes,
I
exactly.
can
Exactly.
really count them.
Yes,
I
yes,
can.
and those are some of the things, and also Kajiado. I mean, Kitengela being in Kajiado County, we have a lot of farmers who have livestock. The locals have more of them have livestock, so it's grazing all over. Where have you seen grass?
Okay.
So
Grass is
all that
nowhere to be found.
exactly.
But they move. These farmers, they're pastoralists, right?
So they move, they come eat when it's
When it's
drying, they go to the
finished,
next
they go
place.
to the next
Exactly.
place.
But since we don't have enough rain, then the grass cannot be replenished or grow as fast as should be. It's not like
compared to
Limuru.
the lack of rains also.
Exactly.
So I think it slows down.
Exactly.
Okay, moving on now. What's your view? Like, what do you think contributes among the mentions you've mentioned apart from um human factors that contribute to climate change, and that is deforestation, um, animals moving from one place to the erosion part. What else do you think contributes
to climate change?
Yep.
I think one of the things is that our agricultural practices have taken a different twist. And when I talk about that, I look at just basically even starting with just land preparation. So when you're preparing to plant, we see a lot of farmers. So many of them, so many of us as farmers, the first place we go to first is getting a tractor.
Definitely making work easier.
Exactly. So it seems it is easy, but the nutrients, the healthy proper nutrients of soil is in the first 15 20 minutes 20 centimeters. Yes. And that is why we are told when you want to plant a tree, you put the topsoil on the side, then turn it in the hole when you're planting. But you see, when you're using a tractor, what happens that then you are actually, depending on the different soil structures, you are now turning the topsoil, taking it under. So when you do that, then automatically it affects the climate. And when you talk about climate, is basically the healthy state of our soils, of our environment, so that when we are now practicing agriculture in terms of farming, crop farming, then it is easy to say, okay, yes, this soil is healthy, because not just because of the nutrients, but even basic things like the compactability, and being aired, that is aeration. Exactly, because we see when you have black cotton soil, it means that again there's a lot of compacting. It compacts after that 15-20 centimeters, and this now causes it to have the roots that have already been developed are actually stuck, and now they can't grow. Water cannot go. The nutrients, the minerals that you have to put, like fertilizer and the rest, can't penetrate to the crop, and then it becomes another deep challenge for the red soil that is a bit loose, and that again a lot of soil erosion, a lot of and erosion because of water. When water comes, it sweeps the I don't say the top layer.
The top. And then, top layer. I think you're the best in high school for
no, the lunch,
going to
the lunch. Yeah. So the other way is also when it comes to wind, wind erosion. It comes to the animals now grazing all over. That already on its own proves to be a challenge. And the other thing is also we have to look at basic things like going back to where we started. Probably it's conservation agriculture, probably zero to minimum to zero tillage, probably. Things like using manure in the soil, very critical. That is important for conditioning the soil. And sometimes I hear farmers asking, so why do I need to use manure? So manure is a soil conditioner.
Yes, I can just plant fertilizer. The process of manure itself is hectic.
Actually, even and you see, the reason is that the manure helps the fertilizer to be taken up by crop faster. Is that we don't understand? It's like, for example, I see your hair. That's what I tell you. Now you normally use shampoo, then there's a conditioner. About so so there's either so you wash with the shampoo, then you condition, then you put as you I don't know exactly. Yeah. So the same with the soil. Soil, you put the manure to help aerate, yes, to yes, exactly, the base barrels, yes, soil exactly barrels. Hey, kumbe ulisoma agriculture. I did. I know this thing. Ama ulimaliza tu juzi. Not really juicy. You just have a shop. Interesting, yes. And then now you see with that conditioning of the soil, automatically then it starts. And one of the things that is very critical again is to understand what is climate change and what is climate smart agriculture. Yeah. So those are the things that it will be very interesting for smallholder farmers to get that information. Okay. Since you've mentioned, they are really out here. They are listening to you. Yes. They are watching you. Yeah. What, like, how can you explain to them, to the language, the vocabulary they understand, like climate change? This is what it means by climate change, and this is what it means by climate smart agriculture. Interesting, yes. So when you talk about climate change, so climate change is just the changes in the climatic conditions, especially in areas where in the whole world generally, but more so importantly in terms of how is this affecting the production of food. Because then if climate change was not an aspect that would contribute negatively to the production of food, then we do not get climate smart agriculture. Yeah, true. Technically. So climate smart agriculture is now the principles, the processes that that actually farmers take, or those in the industry take, to make sure that we are building more or less from relief to resilience, but beyond resilience when it comes to now adaptation. So these are basic principles like soil management. Soil management comes in things like soil testing, fertilizer and manure application, conservation agriculture, as I mentioned, minimum to zero tillage. We have things like water management. When we talk about water management, we talk about which are the most efficient ways of using water, available water. Yes. And also conserving them through the soil. Exactly. Yes. My mulching. I know mulching is one of them. Yes, mulching. Drip irrigation, yes, also. Exactly. Yes. And why drip irrigation? Yeah. So at the end of it is now the why. We also have things like, but when talking about climate smart agriculture, we're also looking at pests and disease management. Because you find that a farmer will plant maize, but because of the climatic conditions within his area, you find specific pests attacking the crop. So it could be maize, you get fall armyworm. Now we have the African fall armyworm, which is crazy. I've seen the damages. Exactly. Yeah. So climate smart agriculture, those are the practices that farmers need to do, exactly, and to adopt to. Exactly. Yeah. Okay. Moving on. This program is sponsored by Sprout. Yes. You can visit their page at sproutopencontent.com. I know you know much about Sprout. Yes. And people here who are listening, yes, really, and watching, yes, like, what is Sprout? Maybe you can tell us a brief about it. Yeah. So Sprout is an open content platform for agriculture, and it's under the Masico AgriFin program, which they have developed different content for the benefit of smallholder farmers. They have quite a number of content there. They have quite some videos that are there. I think some of it will be shared as well. It's just basically helping farmers. It actually has information from very different other partners as well. But for this specifically, it comes to climate smart agriculture. It's basically trying to understand what do farmers know about CSA, about climate smart agriculture. Are they aware of the activities that they need to so that to adopt? Are they doing it the right way? You can do mulching. Yeah, but now you do mulching. You have no idea the same. Let me tell you about my story about my mulching. So the day
This reminds me of high school. I'll give you a story
Let
too.
me tell
I
you.
have a testimony.
So me, I went and did mulching proper nini, but I didn't manage the water I didn't use efficient water management. So the little water I was putting, kumbe there was termites under there.
Oh.
So they ate my nursery. So I was wondering, me, I'm putting mulching, I'm putting this. I don't, no, it was eating the roots. So you go and remove the mulch, you realize that the what is it called? The stem is being eaten. So even the mulching itself, you need to understand when and how to do it well. We have even now the plastic mulch that is available right now. So those are some of the basic things that we have to look at, and this goes back to the farmers themselves. Which information and how do they access this information?
Okay. And moving on, I remember the mulching. Like talking of mulching, which are the most reliable materials for mulching? Because I saw someone like pick leaves. Personally, the first thing I ever did was to pick leaves. Like, while I was in like primary school,
Yes,
I didn't know. I was like, I've seen mulching, and I'm like, let me plant something. At home we have the garden, so I used to go to the kitchen garden and be like, this is where I'm planting my things.
Yes.
So I used to plant, uproot trees from those random growing trees.
Yes.
I plant them and then be like, putting mulch on it.
Yes.
So I go cut leaves and be like,
around
each.
Yes.
Until it's only like it remains with
The
a
stem
small.
only.
No, even the stem I cover it. And it was funny. I wish those days we could be having the smartphone so that
you could actually see
like,
exactly.
And then I came to learn that how you're supposed to the right materials you're supposed to use and how you're supposed to arrange for you to conserve water.
Yeah, so it's very important, as you've mentioned, when it comes to materials, grass is the number one. But this grass also has to have dried really well.
Yeah.
Because we do not want to bring in more insects with using grass that hasn't dried, because the insects will be going to eat the green matter. Yeah, very few insects, close to none, feed on the dry matter. So that way, you first of all use the grass, dried grass, dried grass. The other one is also you can also use a plastic mulch now, depending on the crop, by the way. By the way, even the mulching itself is not everywhere.
Yeah, true.
So mulching, there's no need of doing mulching in a place where it's raining throughout.
Yeah. It was of no
use. So you have to understand why do you need the mulch? The mulching. And where. And then which crops do well.
Yeah.
There are some crops that, like, you can imagine mulching bananas.
I know.
Exactly. So there's even if you have to do it in a very clever way. And so you have to understand what is the reason why I'm doing mulching. Yes. Is it water? Is it helping in the plant stress, in reducing the heat in the soil, or is it preserving water?
And also had mulch reduces the growth of weed.
Yes, in some instances.
For example.
Yes. So depending on the crop you're growing.
For example, can you mulch maize? Now,
yes, you can mulch maize, but I'm imagining mulching a whole acre of maize.
Yeah, that's okay.
So you also look at the cost. So you see, to mulch an acre of maize, you need another whole acre of grass.
Yeah, true.
You get
a whole acre.
Actually, you might even need more. Yes. Actually, so you look at the plus and minus in terms of what is this crop? How will it suffer? And so those are things. But I mean, for weed management, there are clever ways of doing it. Yeah, like just spraying herbicide.
Herbicide, but we're trying to. Herbicides is part of the human factor, so we are trying to be as organic as possible.
Well, that on its own is not bad to say organic, but we also have to look at the reality of the ground.
And also the mulching can do in small scale, not large scale.
Yes, but even large scale, we have the plastic mulch that is now that you can actually lay on the drip beds after you've done it. The whole thing is that you just need to understand why.
Okay.
Why do you need to do mulch, and when do you need to do it?
Okay.
Depending on the crop as well. I mean, you can't mulch potatoes. Potatoes go ground, But it depends on the weather pattern. So you have to be understanding, and that's why I say this information has to still be broken down to a language that smallholder farmers directly understand. And as you've said, also visuals, using videos. Yes.
Um, what's your view when you hear what's your view on climate and agriculture, their relationship?
So the relationship is very interesting between climate and agriculture, because climate is now what helps agriculture to be successful. But at the same time, agriculture can also contribute negatively and positively to the
Towards
climate.
Okay.
So when you talk about climate, you talk about the aspects, the factors that can contribute to successful agricultural activities. So things like, as we've mentioned, so things like availability of rain, precipitation, that is the temperatures, evaporation. I think precipitation is more of evaporation.
Yeah.
How can we be able to make sure that the soils are reducing in carbon emissions, so that the whatever you're growing has less. I mean, it's a whole discussion of the carbon sequestration. So that on its own, you have to make sure and understand why are we doing this. And again, going back to this the sprout content, we have these really brilliant videos that actually help in that aspect, in getting farmers getting to understand. So when they talk about climate is now the conditions, again, weather patterns, stuff like that. When it comes to agriculture, it is actually related directly with climate, because whatever you do in agriculture, you have to factor in the weather patterns,
Okay.
the climatic conditions. So that is that's, and so there are two aspects of agriculture. There's agriculture that affects climate negatively. So things like deforestation, things like burning of residues after harvesting, things like excessive over tillage. I can say, in terms of tractor, every season you're bringing a tractor to your farm. We can also look at excessive use of synthetic fertilizers. That is also on its own. Inefficient water use, in terms of how do you use water effectively. So that means that you are observing some of the protocols, some of the practices for climate smart agriculture. However, we also have, on the flip side, the advantages and what agriculture can help contribute to better climate.
Change.
Yes, in fact, so that is number one, as we've said, adopting farmers adopting fully the climate smart agriculture practices, as we've mentioned. Zero to minimum tillage. So it's a minimum to zero tillage, conservation agriculture, and then things like soil testing. So once you test your soil, you need to analyze and see what are the nutrients available in my soil. What do I need, and where do I get this? Can I source from organic ways or inorganic, and then see how best to balance it out? It talks about pest and disease management. You also need to make sure that you test, you protect your crops from diseases and also insects.
Yeah.
So that on its own comes in. There are many ways of doing it. You don't have to go for the conventional or I can say the chemical ways. You can actually do even some of the bio-based solution. You can have organic ways of doing it, or rather, I prefer not using organic and not inorganic, but more of regenerative ways, by just regenerative agriculture, to make sure that we are doing the right thing at the right time.
What are these some of the organic and inorganic that farmers need to employ?
So we have, and again, as I mentioned this, I don't want farmers to think that it's a conk solution and all that. So we're looking at basically something like we call it in our circles the chicken tea. So chicken tea is something very interesting. Chicken tea is chicken manure put in a drum, these 200-liter drums. Then it's left to cure for around 7 days. If you've ever seen somebody making buza, so that's so basically for it to be able to get to balance. You remember manure, if you apply it on the crops directly, it can even burn the crops.
Yeah, true.
So this chicken tea or the goat manure tea, you can actually use it as a foliar fertilizer. And then the residue that remains down, you can actually dry it well and apply it to the crops. And you find out you have healthy crops. Yes.
And speaking of how agriculture affects climate, either positively or negatively, how do you think, like, how does the climate now, like, what are these effects of climate, both negative and positive on agriculture?
On agriculture, yes. Number one, loss of food.
That is the negative side.
Negative. Loss of food is a but now loss of food comes in with very many other things. So for instance, less rains or failed rains is already an aspect of now failed harvest. Because if it doesn't rain enough and you as a farmer don't have enough, which most farmers do not have enough money to buy petrol or diesel for their pumps or install solar, it means you're going to lose at the end of the day. So that's key. That's very important. The other one is basically the carbon sequestration, so the carbon emissions. Our soils have really been depleted of the necessary nutrients, and so it has left our soils very unhealthy. And because of that, then you realize that then farmers cannot harvest enough. Let me tell you something very interestingly, that even nursery germinating is an issue of the soil. You put seeds in the nursery and they don't germinate. It's an issue of the soil. It starts and ends with the soil. Because if the soil is healthy, again, we go back to the example, even if you use the best shampoo or best conditioner or best hair food, if your body is not healthy, even your hair will
be
healthy. Exactly.
Okay.
Okay, I'm not saying those who are bald. You know, there's a word we call
you. This message is not meant for you.
But by choice, yes. So if you're not healthy, and rarely will you find the hair even being really looking good and healthy, you know. So you have to make sure that you work on the soil properly. The other one is, as I mentioned, minimum to zero tillage. Try as much as possible and avoid using tractors every season.
Okay.
Yeah.
And just but to mention, I know the climate and the weather, like the rains, they are important to the agriculture.
Yes.
At the same time, when these changes are happening, you see them experience either flooding or droughts.
Yes. So those again, excess rains cause floods, and the ripple effect on this is that now the topsoil will be taken away. So meaning that it's leaving your farm with the second layer, you know. Soil. Yes, so less nutrients, so you have to pump in more fertilizer and things like that. So that is the relationship that is there.
Okay. Remember, this program is sponsored by Sprout, and this is an organization that gives agriculturalists or farmers a platform to learn and explore in agriculture.
Yes.
We're taking a short or a quick commercial break. We'll be back in a few.
Have you felt that the climate has been changing? Perhaps the dry season seems hotter. The rains are too late, or too early, too little, or don't come at all.
You're seeing more pests and diseases on your shamba. All of this can lead to less yields.
By managing your water and soil, you can ensure that your shamba is still productive. This could be as simple as harvesting water from your roofs, investing in solar irrigation, and practicing conservation agriculture such as mulching, crop rotation, and minimum tillage.
Trees are also a part of smart farming and can help you make your farm cooler, keep your soils intact and healthy. Planting fodder crops and turning grasses into hay or silage is another smart way of adapting.
But be aware that even with smart farming, some things will remain out of your control. That's why it's a good idea to think about insurance, as this can cover you from these unforeseen events.
Good soil and water management, along with planting trees and pest and disease control, can also help you increase your yields and income as the climate changes.
Have you felt that the climate has been changing? Perhaps the dry season seems hotter. The rains are too late, or too early, too little, or don't come at all.
You're seeing more pests and diseases on your shamba. All of this can lead to less yields.
By managing your water and soil, you can ensure that your shamba is still productive. This could be as simple as harvesting water from your roofs, investing in solar irrigation, and practicing conservation agriculture such as mulching, crop rotation, and minimum tillage.
Trees are also a part of smart farming and can help you make your farm cooler, keep your soils intact and healthy. Planting fodder crops and turning grasses into hay or silage is another smart way of adapting.
But be aware that even with smart farming, some things will remain out of your control. That's why it's a good idea to think about insurance, as this can cover you from these unforeseen events.
Good soil and water management, along with planting trees and pest and disease control, can also help you increase your yields and income as the climate changes.
Have you felt that the climate has been changing? Perhaps the dry season seems hotter. The rains are too late, or too early, too little, or don't come at all.
You're seeing more pests and diseases on your shamba. All of this can lead to less yields.
By managing your water and soil, you can ensure that your shamba is still productive. This could be as simple as harvesting water from your roofs, investing in solar irrigation, and practicing conservation agriculture such as mulching, crop rotation, and minimum tillage.
Trees are also a part of smart farming and can help you make your farm cooler, keep your soils intact and healthy. Planting fodder crops and turning grasses into hay or silage is another smart way of adapting.
But be aware that even with smart farming, some things will remain out of your control. That's why it's a good idea to think about insurance, as this can cover you from these unforeseen events.
Good soil and water management, along with planting trees and pest and disease control, can also help you increase your yields and income as the climate changes.
Welcome back. It's exactly 1 p.m. and 1 p.m. Yeah? And you're taking this interview very smooth, very swift. I hope you're not lost on the way. Welcome back. And I like to today I like there's a question, a trivia question that goes like it has a giveaway. So if we get it right and you give the best explanation, there's something for you. And the question of today is what is and it's really lies on whatever we are talking. If you've been following up the interview, you're going to get it right. What is climate smart agriculture? That's what you're asking. Yeah, I know. Mtu amekuwa follow up. Don't let this gift go. What is climate smart agriculture? Make sure you get this. And we are proudly sponsored by Sprout. Remember that. Remember to follow their social media platform. Get to learn more at sproutopencontent.com on their website and also on their social media. Yeah. Noah, we are back.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yes. You know, that question is a very interesting question because most farmers, let me just tell you the truth. I have been farming for 15 years, going to 16.
You farm.
Yes, I'm a farmer.
You are a farmer.
Yes.
What do you do? Like
we farm.
Where what
what do you mean? How do we do?
Yeah, like
I grow almost everything. So depending on the seasons, I can do maize this season and beans and tomatoes. Then I rotate crops. I do onions, depending also on the market. Okay. At the end of the day, anything that you do in agriculture, you have to look at the market.
Yeah, true.
So you find that I thought of testing my soil 8 years after I had started farming.
So it was just recently.
It didn't occur to me that it was important to test my soil. No.
What changed? What gave you the idea, the thought?
It was a painful experience.
What happened?
I harvested capsicum, and then it took 2 weeks to harvest the next one. And you're supposed to harvest after every 3-4 days. I was like, no, this must be a problem. Then I talked to a very, very good friend of mine. She's called Maureen Situma, who said she works at Syngenta, and she actually told me you need to test your soil so that you know what nutrients are in the soil, so that you know which fertilizer to use. And so, in relation to the question you asked the viewers, what is climate smart agriculture? Most people don't know, or rather, most farmers don't know that climate. They know that climate affects, but they don't know that it affects them.
Yeah.
Because when a farmer is buying seeds, they never ask about weather.
Literally.
Yes, they never say.
Most of them, they be
exactly.
like, I need nataka mbegu ya kupanda mahindi.
Yes.
Yeah, maybe ya maharage. Hivyo tu, and it's done.
Yes. So they ask about when they would harvest is in relation to the market prices. Okay. You get in relation to the market prices and not the other way around. So that is why it is very important, and we'd like to see some of the feedback.
Their comments.
Yes.
I like to see you. What are you people giving me? Who is going to get the right answer?
Yes.
Who at least understands this concept? And moving on, like Mr. Noah.
Yes.
What do you like? Someone might be asking, how does this climate change? Like, does it really affect everyone, or it's okay? Does it really affect everyone equally?
No. I don't know how for some reason I knew that I knew where you're going. It doesn't affect everyone equally. No. No, that's a big lie.
But let me ask, it's raining and we said climate is it's the weather. It will rain on us.
We have to be very careful when you talk about equality. Climate change does not affect everyone equally. And why do I say this? It doesn't affect, for example, in an area where there are floods, you'll find that those who are able to swim, even swim.
Yeah.
But when you talk about now coming in relation to agriculture, you'll find that some people are more vulnerable. For example, the women, the children, the elderly. So the activity that they would engage in, for example, when it is too hot, then they can't anymore. You see, and this is because now they cannot keep on going to the farm to plant, to weed, and all that.
Yeah.
Again, when it comes to climate change and the actual effects, or rather impacts, you find that when it is too dry, very few farmers are able to water the crops.
Yeah.
So if they cannot water the crops, what does that mean?
The crops will wilt.
Exactly. So in the way crops will wilt, they lose out.
They're going to get a loss, definitely.
So what about the ones who have water?
They going to water.
And they will go to the market and
Yeah.
sell. So equality mepotea hapo.
Okay. I'm seeing where it's headed.
Yes.
So,
if you look at the Western world, they will not be affected the same as us. Because they might even still have, even if remember, they get winter. So during the winter, there's very few crops that grow. But since they already have probably even glass houses and greenhouses and stuff like that, they can still grow some food. But they will be able to even buy from other regions like Africa, because of they already have some disposable income. When floods hit just Kitengela here, there is no food. Everything is gone, and you don't even have money to buy food from Kiambu.
Yeah.
Okay. But all in all, when it comes to now the equality, when it comes to agriculture, the other thing that is also affecting is that we've been hearing a lot of discussion going on around carbon credits, the carbon sequestration and the money that is involved in even the farming activities in Africa. Yes, they contribute a large extent to the carbon emissions, but not like the industries in the West. So there's no equality in that. Those who are polluting the air more are still earning more from the carbon sequestration discussions. So it's like they pollute the air. Since they have some extra money, then they can be able to pay farmers peanuts, really very little amount of money to try and clean up the air again. So there's no equality when it comes to carbon to climate change.
Wow. I thought actually it makes sense now, because you see, you can't compare someone in Tanzania and someone in
Lodwar,
Turkana.
yes. And imagine it's not far.
It's still the same country.
Next county, neighboring counties. See, Turkana is neighboring to Tanzania. Yeah. Yes. Yes. Okay. You pass Kitale as you go to. Yes. Okay. There's Pokot. Yeah. But anyway, the same. Yes.
So,
yeah.
Wow. Anyway,
you see,
life can never be equal.
You can imagine Mount Elgon is growing onions, but Lord will know. But again, it also comes back into what can you do with what you have? What is this thing in Lodwar that can be used to help fight climate change? So when it comes to food, there's the rivers where the fish is.
They have like
the Lake Turkana. Sorry, I meant Lake Turkana. Yeah. There's a lot of fish there, but you find that probably is it a taboo or something that they don't have to eat that fish. So can that fish be packed, prepared, tinned, and sold as finished product in exchange for something else? We did a project in Turkana in 2019, and it was a fantastic project. It was a wonderful project. So the project was about trying to revive some of the farms that are there. We visited quite a number of farms with the aid of one of our friends, and we saw what they were doing in terms of some of the sweetest watermelons I've ever tasted in the world is grown in Turkana. Yes, not far from the airport, from the airport in Lodwar. The green vegetables that were there quite good. In fact, but it's because they had been given drip irrigation systems, proper seeds, quality, water retainers, some substances to help the soil retain water moisture. So again, that can be done, but it's not being done yet. So that is why I strongly say climate change does not affect everyone equally. No. Yeah.
climate change does not affect everyone equally. You need to get
Even
that
in the
right.
information, even in the information, you as a farmer, even just the information about soil management, that information is not being passed on as quick as possible. What we're being told is, I just add fertilizer. We're not being told you need to test your soil, or we get a subsidy or a subsidized rate of testing soils at an affordable rate. Again, climate change is not affecting everyone. Those who have resources will be able to test their soil. They'll buy the right kind of fertilizer. They will add manure, and they will harvest.
What do you think can be done to these farmers who they feel like you just do it because they found it being done? Like mtu, you were born, you found that shamba ulimwa, upandwa, umwagiwa mbolea, upaliliwa,
alafu unavuna kidogo.
What do you think can be done, at least to break the dormancy of this and improve
we also have
quality and quantity?
We have to, and again, the point you're putting across, improving the quality and quantity is very important, because it's a business. So you have to ask yourself, is the business growing or is it just stagnant? But again, let me tell you this. Not everyone is meant for marriage. Remember, God did not say
pull up. My friend needs to hear this.
I'm saying the truth. Not everyone is meant for marriage.
Marriage.
Remember, God did not say everyone will marry. No. He said the whole world will be filled into paradise. He did not say everyone will marry. The same case, not everyone is meant for farming. Just because you own a farm, don't think you're a farmer. Because, and that is the reason why you find very many people investing in farms. But since they're not farming, they're thinking of, I'll make a quick cash out of this. I'll make a some quick money out of farming. My friend, farming, you are there to stay fast. You relax. You talk to people who have burnt. I lost 75,000 cabbages myself. I lost 4 tons of watermelon. There's a friend of mine who buried 14 tons of onions not far from here. Maize. I planted maize. I planted onions very well. Then I told my guys at the farm, we have to plant maize on the boundaries of where we planted onions. These guys went and planted maize next to onion. So I'm coming 2 weeks later. 1 week later, I'm wondering, why is the maize so big? Where are the onions? Oh, it was gone. So basically what I'm saying is, for farmers, for those who are farming, go and look for this information, because it will never look for you. Just like any business, you go and look for that information. You can imagine the way you keep on saying, which I also strongly believe should happen. We need to have extension services, effective extension officers, and buyers, those ones who are not buyers at all, on a company or something like that, just for government advising farmers directly. But if they're not coming to you, go and look for them, because they are there. That is their mandate. That is their work. Go and look for them. If they have to be facilitated to come and to a farm and help you, it's the same thing as you could have gone to a business coach or a business mentor. You'd go and ask them, hey, by the way, I'm trying to do this business, it's not working. They will take you through some of the things that you need to do. The same with farming. So as smallholder farmers, if this information is not coming to you, seek and you shall find.
That's a Bible verse.
Yeah. Yes.
But that point of marriage is not for everyone.
It's
friend
true.
Out there, you're watching, I know. This one should touch you. You should stop. Marriage is not for everyone.
Yes. Just like business, it's not for everyone.
Yeah.
You have ever met people who've tried business? They try, but it never works.
The same as for, let me say, every profession.
There's some profession you can cook. There's some profession you can cook, by the way. Any profession. You see.
You can't cook doctor.
No, you see, once you've started, then you can't just leave. you're not meant to be a doctor. But again, it's true.
Yeah, some people live. I've
Yes.
seen a teacher who used to teach me back then. He used to be a very good teacher, but seriously, this is not my thing. Right now.
Yes.
I don't want to mention what it is, but he went out to be like a driver, matatu driver. And
they're happy.
Really doing well.
Yes.
And it's like, I love my work.
But you see, not everyone has that leeway of just let me leave what I'm doing and go to do. So again, farming is an investment. Take it as an investment and go seek this information. But that does not mean that the county government and national government should not dedicate more resources into this, because even if you give farmers the best resources, best inputs, and you don't guide them how to use, it's like going to a doctor. They say, oh, you're sick, here is antibiotics, here is painkiller, here is this, go. You have to be given instructions. Swallow 2 after every meal, avoid alcohol.
The alcohol part with the antibiotics, very important. They are parallel. Like,
yes.
They
don't match.
Don't.
Yes.
They don't.
Yes.
Anyway, we've been talking about soil. That's what you said.
Yes.
Majoring. And we've been keeping on like farmers need to test their soil.
Yes.
What are you going like? What's your view, and what do you feel like farmers should know first of all? Like, is it the type of soil first, or how they're testing? Maybe their pH, the nutrients they're lacking, or what's the procedure they're supposed to know for them to maybe plant a particular crop?
So I'll also use a narrative as well, and say when you want to set up a business, what do you look for? You look at the location of the business. You look at things like security. You look at things like market. Will people pass there? Is it a front line shop, or ya uko nyuma? Is it in a building? Is it when you climb the building, when you just reach the stairs, do you see the shop there, or is it the corner at the end? So it's very important for you to understand the same thing with your farm. You need to understand, first of all, where is my farm located? If my farm is in Kitale, my farm is in Voi, I need to look at quite a number of things. So when I talked about security, it's the same as now soil disease. When I talk about customers, I'm talking about now what crop can grow well. So those are some of the things that you have to consider. And you have to, even before saying I'm going to test my soil, you have to understand that in this region, this kind of crops grow well. Probably all crops can grow, but these ones grow better. For example, in areas where it is cold at night and a larger part of the weather in the year is cold, then things like carrots will do well, things like green vegetables, things like potatoes will do well. But tomatoes, no. Because the biggest challenge of tomatoes is what? Is cold. Because it gives the blight, early blight and late blight as well. Things like capsicum, no. You know why? Because of the coldness will make the fruit flowers not, blossom well, and the fruit formation will be slower, because you don't find very many bees where it is cold. So pollination will be a challenge. Things like watermelon will not grow. So you need to have first a rough idea of where is my farm. And then you go into now, what do I want to grow? And that what you want to grow is the determining factor now to the tests that you will do. So you say, I am in a hot area, I'd like to grow watermelon. So I need to know, are there soil-borne diseases that affect watermelon? Yes. Then I need to test against those. So things like fusarium and the bacterial wilt, so those are just the starting. Remember, you've not even tested yet the soil. So you are looking at what are these things that need to be tested first before. What are these factors that will
You need
when
to
you go
consider
before testing.
testing.
So that when you test, then when you get your
feedback.
results and the recommendations, then they are matching what you want to do. You can imagine when you want to grow up. There's a farmer friend of mine who was farming tomatoes, and they did not look at the soil structure. So they went invested in, I think, six greenhouses. They did everything. They planted tomatoes.
They literally they
Yes.
never did a
Soil
background
test,
check
no.
of soil-borne
No.
diseases, the pH, the nutrients.
Nothing. So they planted. When they planted, the crop was so healthy until when it started flowering and fruiting. You know, wilting does not start when you have planted. You just plant properly.
No.
It waits for you. You flower, and
Now
fruiting.
you're waiting for the
and then it tells you when you did you test again. You get the scenario. So then you have to test and know, okay, I want to do tomatoes in this area. Does it have fusarium wilt? And it will be very expensive to correct soil that has fusarium wilt. It will be close to the investment of a greenhouse. So why don't you then grow a crop that can do well in that region with that soil? So that even if you are to use some resources to treat the soil, it's not as much as doing something that is not,
Yeah.
So once you've done the test, also you need to understand, how do I collect soil sample for the soil test? Don't just dig randomly 5 areas. No, you have to have a pattern so that there is the
zigzag.
sample. Yes, the zigzag
method.
Exactly. Yes, in the whole farm.
Yeah.
So that depending on if you want to do an acre to 3 acres, you can take one sample. But if you have resources, probably of every acre, so that you can know which acre you need to do what.
Yeah.
Then once you've taken the sample, also make sure that you're also using a credible soil testing company. For me, I always and I will always recommend Crop Nutrition Laboratory Services. They're called Crop Nuts, who do thorough checks. And once you have this done, then it becomes easier, because then the soil will tell you, the result will tell you that yes, you have fusarium wilt, but what level of it has it been infected? Okay.
Yeah.
You have bacterial wilt, what level? You have this kind of pH, 5.5 or 9. So it tells you this is your soil. It tells you what the macro elements, things like nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, and then the other micro elements that contribute. Remember, we said that you wash your hair, you use shampoo, you put hair food, and then you do what else? Kuna spray naonanga inapigwa. Yes. Okay. So those are the elements that now help this soil be excellent or close to excellent for you to get optimum yields.
Yeah.
You see, so that there's a mix of so many things that come in together, and then once you have that knowledge of this is what my soil looks like, it's just like going to hospital, and then before the doctor treats you, even if that doctor is your mother, she cannot read your blood with bare eyes.
True.
You have to do a blood test.
Yeah, true.
So based on the blood test results and the findings, it tells you these elements are too much. This is the level they are the level that they're supposed to be. So that way now it tells you now my soil has told me that the pH is at 5. Then what do you need to bring it up to 6.5 to 7, 7.5 there? Or it tells you it's at 9. What do you do to reduce the acidity and all that? Yeah. It tells you the nitrogen levels are high or low. So you need to do all that. So once you have that, and we don't just stop at soil testing. It goes to the next level of interpretation of the recommendations that are there, which is very critical.
Okay.
Yeah.
We are coming back there to the recommendation after a short break. Remember, this program is proudly sponsored by Sprout.
Yes.
We're coming back after few.
Yes.
See you then.
heart of any shamba lies in its soil. Because soil is so precious, it needs to be managed really carefully. A good place to start is with a soil test. This will tell you how healthy your soil is, its pH levels, what type of soil it is, which crops you can grow in your soil, and advice on which fertilizer is best to use. If you follow the soil test recommendations, it can boost your yields. So, how do you take a soil test sample? Firstly, dig up soil samples. Use a soil auger or panga to take a sample 1 feet deep in a zigzag pattern across your shamba. You will need at least 10 samples. Mix all the different samples together in a bucket. The soil is now ready to be scanned and tested. You can find out about how to get your soil tested by contacting your extension officer. Alternatively, contact a Ministry of Agriculture research station near you. A soil test costs about as much as 1 bag of maize. You should do a soil test at least every 3 to 5 years. The heart of any shamba lies in its soil. Because soil is so precious, it needs to be managed really carefully. A good place to start is with a soil test. This will tell you how healthy your soil is, its pH levels, what type of soil it is, which crops you can grow in your soil, and advice on which fertilizer is best to use. If you follow the soil test recommendations, it can boost your yields. So, how do you take a soil test sample? Firstly, dig up soil samples. Use a soil auger or panga to take a sample 1 feet deep in a zigzag pattern across your shamba. You will need at least 10 samples. Mix all the different samples together in a bucket. The soil is now ready to be scanned and tested. You can find out about how to get your soil tested by contacting your extension officer. Alternatively, contact a Ministry of Agriculture research station near you. A soil test costs about as much as 1 bag of maize. You should do a soil test at least every 3 to 5 years.
All right, welcome back to the next segment. It's exactly 1 past that was 30 minutes, half an hour past 1.
You're gonna be a ninja. You're like
Some kuna venye. But anyway, we good, huh? We
Yep.
good.
Yep. Going strong.
Okay, Mr. Noel.
Yep.
This about the climatic change and all that trend that is,
Yes.
since it was announced by maybe Vision 2030.
Yes.
There's this plan that was said to be achieved by this and this.
Yeah.
I've seen a county, one of the county here in Kenya, Nyandarua County, has taken a step to implement the plan. And they are setting aside 2.4 billion
Hey. You know what?
in implementing the climate change action plan in the next 5 years, of which this means they'll be spending 40 million annually.
For what? We have to be very specific. Promise
No,
for constructing roads going to the farmers.
No, there's a plan they have. It's a whole PDF of around 35 to 40 pages of what they're trying to implement when it comes to water, environment, that's what they're planning to conserve and going organic.
Okay.
Nyandarua is the second county in Kenya after Kiambu in production of milk.
Yes.
So,
and one of the counties that uses the most number of pesticides, chemicals.
Really?
They grow many things, so there's a lot of But anyway, that's a good thing. That's a good thing. I think one of the things that I say, it was meant to be an agreement that all governments, county, national, whatever counties, governments, would dedicate 10% of their revenue to agriculture. However, that has not been done. In fact, very few counties even have 5% dedicated to agriculture. One of the counties that I've seen is becoming a bit active in agriculture is Machakos, where the governor, also being an active farmer in a semi-arid area, has actually dedicated quite enough resources, had time to be able to make sure that this is a success. So when it comes to such figures, I normally get scared of those figures.
Why?
Because
those are just small figures.
Because what I'm not seeing, I'm not getting scared of the amount. I'm scared of the mentioning of the billion. And if you look at that, how much of that is going into farmer training? How much of that is going into
intensive
exactly
or extensive care?
Yes, extension services. What of that is going into now post-harvest management? How much of that is actually going into the education of what climate smart agriculture is, plus helping farmers implement. There's one thing training someone or showing someone something. It's another totally different thing to actually show them how to do it. It's like I tell you, that's a bike. That's how you ride a bike. Watch this video. But if I don't hold you and show you this is how
this
to
the
hold.
pedal, you hold it.
Yes,
this is what you do.
and you are told yes, you will fall down. I don't think there's anybody who has ever ridden a bike and didn't fall down.
I thank God I've never tried and don't think I'll ever do it.
You just have to ride.
No, I won't.
I learned how to ride a bike. I think when I was what?
How old?
I think I was 18 years old.
18.
Yes.
I'm better off.
I had this funny scare of falling down.
Me too. I still love it. It's not yet out.
But you can start with those ones that has really three legs.
You want me to use a tricycle? I know.
Yes, so that if you go like this, it holds you. You go like this, it holds you. But again, going back, yes, you can imagine the importance of those wheels to a child. It just gives them confidence that yes, they cannot fall down.
Yeah.
The same thing with farmers. If you can just get proper guided information, farmers can do wonders.
Okay. One of their implementation plan is to harvest energy from their well-known waterfalls, like the Ndogino,
yes,
Daragua, those places. Yeah. They are the waterfalls. They're trying to trap to make energy and solar, the windmill.
Yes.
That's what they're trying to invest in, so that to cut the cost of this another energy giving. Like the fossil fuels.
Yes.
Maybe that's what they're trying to cut on.
Yes, not a problem.
Reduce the climate.
Yes, that is not a problem. My only concern is that let that be a reality when farmers are also being part of that. Because farmers still produce and they produce very well. But what are these things that can be done for farmers to produce to get better yield? Production is one thing. Improved yields is a totally different thing.
True.
Yeah.
So what do you think is the right way they should approach it? Like, or maybe advise a certain county, because these are the ones which have come out, their county government, just say this is what we want to do.
Just pumps. I think they should do that. They should do 10 or 15% of their revenues to smallholder trainings and extension services. The changing thing is extension services. So make sure that extension officers first at the county level have been trained really well on climate smart agricultural practices.
Okay.
So that is what is taken to them, to the farmers. But even if you pump in money and the extension officers, number one, they might not have enough knowledge, then it means that they're really losing. Yeah.
Wow. Moving on. I don't know which other country. I'm not sure yet, but Naro was the recent one. Now, we're getting now to the another segment of about resilience and adaptation in climate change. How are you going to, what's the first of all, what's the difference between resilience and adaptation?
Good. So resilience, just like being I mean, as a human being being resilient, it is actually understanding that something will go wrong,
Having.
then prepare for it, so you don't get too many shocks.
Mm-mm.
So I don't know if I say like people getting heartbroken. No, let's not go there. Like for example, you know that something is gonna happen, and you prepare and get ready that even if it happens,
you have the shock absorbers.
Exactly. So that is resilience, you know, and
Adaptation.
But I normally say resilience is now stupidity. Anyway,
Why?
yes, because you are always fighting. You always want to fight back. You know, you are fighting the effects of climate change. You are fighting the effects of this. But adaptation is different. Adaptation is actually knowing that it will rain at a certain time of the year. And then, before waiting and getting a solution, then you prepare on how to harvest water. For example, I hear that some months back, we were praying for the rains.
Yeah. yeah,
So,
we did.
So we were resilient because we knew it's drought and it's hot and all that. So we were resilient. We knew that, we'll lose some of the produce, we'll lose this. Somehow it's okay. We'll cope with it. But adaptation meant when we were praying for the rains, we were also building dams. We were also having water harvesting in all the homes. We have people being given tanks so that when the rain comes, you store the water.
Yeah.
So that means you have adopted to rain patterns. So that is the difference between resilience and adaptation. It would be really nice if farmers moved to adaptation than just resilience. Just like a human being, if you ever come to me and tell me that you are very resilient, I'll tell you you're not normal.
Why? But you think
it's like, for example, me, I'm resilient to heartbreaks. I mean, you have to ask yourself, why are you getting heartbroken?
okay.
You know?
Okay,
let's use another example.
Let's go to heartbreak. Please.
No, at least you'll see signs. You'll see signs.
Okay, some you know,
So you
when
cannot-
you're blind. You tell love is blind. So you can't see. You can't see.
So it means you are the one who's blind, not love itself. I'm not blind, my friend. You are the one
love
who's
makes
blind.
you blind.
So anyway, so what I wanted to say is that resilience is not bad. It comes, and just as a human being, you become resilient to a certain level, but you cannot keep on being resilient, because resilience means you keep on fighting the effects of climate change. So you're constantly at war. Instead of saying, I will test my soil, put in the manure, and do this, so that I don't have to lose my crop. Okay, so those are the things that to look at and adopt, and we have to look at now, how are we adopting? Not keep on meeting. You cannot stop the effects of climate change. You can adopt to the climate change and now get the best out of what is remaining.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So resilience in adaptation.
Yes.
Farmers should be more of adaptive than being resilient.
Yes, we should actually build solutions that make farmers adopt to climate change.
What are the solutions?
Climate smart agriculture.
Okay.
Water, instead of wasting water,
you conserve.
Drip irrigation. Instead of tillage, remove the tractor from the farm. Chop, drop, chop, drop. Remember, when a tractor turns like this, it turns the whole farm.
Yeah.
But you're just going to plant in how big is a seed?
A
very small thing.
Yeah.
So why do you disturbing all this other area out there instead of just putting the seed up? So those are some of the things that I would say would be important for us to look at.
Okay.
Yes.
Moving on. What is there for the sake of agricultural sector? Like the sustainability, the food security, and improving like the livelihoods. What do you think for this smallholder farmers?
Yes.
How can we create resilience and adaptation towards the impact of climate change?
So number one, I think, is to make sure that we first train farmers. So capacity building is very important, showcasing these changes in climate to farmers in a very realistic way, in a realistic and practical way. So that is very important. We also have to train farmers on how to be part of this discussion by having focus groups with them, having the role models. For example, is a farmer who has installed drip irrigation in an area. Can other farmers come and see what that looks like, what it does, how efficient that is, what income is there? The other one that is also very critical is having these discussions about carbon sequestration, so that not only some people are more privileged to get this information, and also earn out of it. The other one is basically things like soil testing. Soil testing should be in fact, I always say you had better test soil and not buy fertilizer.
Okay,
You had better.
test soil than buy fertilizer. How frequent is a farmer supposed to test the soil? Like in a span of between
It
what
depends
and
on
what?
how you're using. How many times?
Like the minimum. I mean, like
Do you know? Can I surprise you something? Hey, if you are tested blood in hospital today, yeah, and you become sick after 1 week, they will still test you again.
yeah.
Why?
Is that the same case with soil?
Yes, because soil USC, after you've planted, remember this soil told you that you have these nutrients in the soil. You have this disease or no disease in the soil. You've planted a crop, it has taken up what? The nutrients. So do you think the nutrients are still the same?
No.
No, definitely. Unless now you're doing things like mulching, things like planting cover crops, and that's the reason why initially you would, in the older days, you would plant maize and beans, because maize would go up, beans would remain like a cover crop, but also beans would give nitrogen to the soil.
Yeah.
So see, that's that thing that you have to make sure that is being done. But over and over again, I keep on saying we have to make sure that we are developing effective extension services for our farmers.
Okay, these extension services you keep on mentioning, like per county, let's say for instance, how many extension officers should they like have, or is it a motion that should be taken by our leaders so that we cut this food security thing once and for all? Once you're saying there's extensive officers, once they educate the farmers, there'll be an impact in food production, and also the quality and the quantity will increase. So what do you think can be done about it?
First of all, there is poverty, there is drought and weather and climate related activities that have contributed to food losses. But Africa, let me talk about Kenya. Kenya's problem is not a production problem, because there are very many people wanting to farm.
Yeah.
Our problem is a data problem, because we don't know where food is available at any given time. We only go to the supermarket, or the local market, but we don't know that probably this food, if we were 10 people and each of us uses 5 kilos of rice every week, it might be cheaper to go to Mwea and buy a whole sack of 50 kilograms. So it means that we don't know where the food is. So it's more of a data problem. Yes, production is also a key aspect, but it's more of a data problem, because even that information we're talking about of telling farmers to grow this at this time is still a data
problem,
because you've already analyzed and said that, for you to grow and harvest 20 tons of watermelon, then you need to do X. You get? Or there's already watermelon being harvested somewhere. How do we make sure that that watermelon comes at a right price for the market? Data.
Okay.
So what is happening in Kenya right now is more of a data problem. The other thing that is also contributing to that is the transport and logistics services.
Mm-hmm.
That is it's a different nightmare.
Mm-hmm.
Because a farmer has harvested, they don't have a pickup or a motorbike or a means of transport to the market.
Mm-hmm.
So it means that
Maybe
if you've harvested tomatoes today,
mm-hmm.
let's assume you're harvesting today, then a buyer comes and buys premium quality.
Mm-hmm.
And buys, for example, you have 100 kilos, they buy 50 kilos.
Mm-hmm.
You know that it will be very hard for you to actually make this farmer preserve that food. One, because they're already discouraged, and what they're supposed to go with to the market, they don't have that money. You have tomatoes, but there's no taxi driver or pickup driver will you'll give them tomatoes in exchange of transport, because then they have to buy fuel.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So transport and logistics takes up a very big role, close to almost 35%.
Mm-hmm.
So what does a farmer will remain really?
Close to nothing.
Exactly. So those are some of the things that we have to look at very critically.
Okay, what is the solution then to the farmers, like to the data, the logistics?
So the farmers, number one, we also have to be inquisitive. So all the farmers, if you're watching now, go and join Africa Farmers Club.
Mm-hmm.
We talk about that, a lot of that information.
Mm-hmm.
And when you look at that information, that is where farmers are able to talk, question themselves, ask questions, get responses, get feedback. The other social media pages for farmers share this info. Get to ask this information. Remember, we said that something has to come to you.
Yeah.
Sorry, you have to go and get something.
When
However,
you need, like,
yes,
whatever you need,
you have to go and get there.
Yeah.
That's it's called, go and get it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yesterday I met with a friend, and he was telling me that he went to be taught about fine dining. So he was taught that when you're taking soup, you don't do like this and swallow. I know that's what you do. You do like this and then you do this.
Okay, I exactly do what you've done the second way.
Oh, really?
Without being taught. And people will be like, where are you eating like?
Yes, like this.
Way?
Okay? So it is just so even if you are somewhere and you reach the place where you're doing fine dining, it shows that somebody taught you, or you got this information somehow. But you didn't just sit there and it didn't come through. Okay? So you have to make sure very critically this information you're going to get this information. But at the same time, since agriculture has been devolved, we have the county director of agriculture, or livestock. Then it's broken down, into the departments, either crop, horticulture, or livestock, or fisheries, or stuff like that. Then it goes down to the sub-county extension officers. Then it's broken down to the ward extension officers. Meaning that all these people in this value chain at least need to understand what a farmer in a certain area is growing or can grow or needs certain information. So what am I saying? The county governments have to dedicate more resources into getting this done.
I think Kenya is a very rich country. When it comes to food production, if only something can be done. Yes. Remember Egypt is a very desert place, but they still
but Egypt, only 6% of Egypt land, not more than 10% is arable for agriculture. And it is hot. Yeah. But you find they produce food. Have you ever heard Egypt doesn't have food?
No. And yet it's close to the desert and part of it.
But they're just making use of whatever resources they have available.
No, that's what I'm saying. In Kenya we have Rift Valley, the whole of Rift Valley, the whole of Western, the whole of Nyanza.
Yes.
And
where it rains every day. When it decides to rain, it's raining.
Yeah, and we can make use of it. I think I was trying to advise someone from the western side, like the Rift Valley, North Rift especially. Instead of them planting maize for like the 614, duration of 8 months, why don't they plant
Katumani?
Katumani.
I saw you going. But it's possible.
Yeah,
Yeah.
their soils does best.
Yes.
And 3 months, you're done. 3 months,
Yes.
you give it a break of 2 months, you plant like a piece.
Mhm,
Yeah,
mhm.
and be like the next one, that's what you do. Or rather, plant peas, then or beans.
Yes.
Then do maize for 6 months.
Mm.
Yeah.
So you
But
see,
I think if we
Mm.
could be doing that and we adapt the issue of consuming our own made food
yes.
without taking from other countries, I think our own marketing, local
It will even be
market,
cheaper.
it will be cheaper.
Food will be much cheaper,
and
healthier.
they'll be everywhere.
Exactly.
It will be in a position to reach those people in the northeastern.
Even northeastern,
Ghana.
you can be able to see test the soil and check what soil, then put just irrigation systems. Because we've seen 6% of Egypt is arable.
Yeah.
In Kenya, even Turkana, probably 70% of Turkana is arable, can grow crops. So why don't we invest in those communities? So it is possible.
Very possible. I
Yeah.
know. I think farmers, let's gather here.
Yes.
Let's talk. Let's do this. I know we can do this.
You can do this. Yes.
Remember, our sponsor for this program is Sprout, and follow them on their website, on their social media platform
Yes.
at sproutopencontent.com. This is where farmers get a platform and learn and get to engage in different farming and agricultural products. We're taking a short commercial break. We'll be back in a few.
Conservation agriculture is a way of farming that keeps nutrients and moisture in your soil. It's also a good way of controlling pests and diseases. The three main principles are minimum tillage, mulching, and crop rotation. With minimum tillage, you only disturb the soil where you will be planting. You can do this with a reaper or using a djembe. The second principle is called mulching. This means that you cover your soil with leftover residues such as leaves or maize stovers. This protects your soil from the hot sun while holding moisture in the ground. The mulch material will break down and add nutrients to your soil. Crop rotation is the third principle. You shouldn't plant the same crop on the same piece of land year after year. Instead, rotate between different crop families each season. If you follow these simple principles, you can be certain of healthier soil and higher yields in the long run. Conservation agriculture is a way of farming that keeps nutrients and moisture in your soil. It's also a good way of controlling pests and diseases. The three main principles are minimum tillage, mulching, and crop rotation. With minimum tillage, you only disturb the soil where you will be planting. You can do this with a reaper or using a djembe. The second principle is called mulching. This means that you cover your soil with leftover residues such as leaves or maize stovers. This protects your soil from the hot sun while holding moisture in the ground. The mulch material will break down and add nutrients to your soil. Crop rotation is the third principle. You shouldn't plant the same crop on the same piece of land year after year. Instead, rotate between different crop families each season. If you follow these simple principles, you can be certain of healthier soil and higher yields in the long run.
right, welcome back to our final segment of Made Money Show. You know how we do it here. Right in studio, I'm not alone, of course. My name is Boss Queen, and you are in a farmer's media. And alongside, I have a guest,
One and only.
one and only. He says he claims to be the only one.
I'm the only one who's called Noah Nasiali Kadima.
Noah Nasiali Kadima.
Big name.
Okay, what does the name Nasiali mean?
Nasiali means prince.
Prince. And Kadima?
Kadima means so Kadima was a name that was given to my grandfather. So I come from the Nabongo clan.
Nabongo.
Yes, yes. So what happened is that it is actually a Maasai name. My great grandfather. They were lost somewhere in Kajiado. You know that Nabongo was controlling so many places. So Kajiado was part of his area. So when he was lost, he was found, then he was given the name Kadima.
So literally, if according to how I have understood, Kadima means you are lost and then you are
Not
found.
me.
Not you. No. I'm trying to you are lost, then you're found.
Yes.
Then you're Kadima.
Yes.
So lost
Yes.
and found. Is Kadima. Okay, fine.
Yep.
Okay. And
Good
that
stuff.
makes you to be
Yes.
the only one.
Uh-huh.
Okay. The people. The question I asked today: what is climate smart agriculture? Most people, I can't wait to see the feedback.
It's interesting.
To go through the comments.
Yes.
What do you think? Maybe before, you give us your view, and then we see what farmers have, and those giving out feedback, and see who at least has it all.
Climate smart agriculture. What climate smart agriculture is basically, I think, there are principles that guide it in terms of how you can be able to understand how the weather patterns are, what can you do with them, how do you continue practicing agriculture and not getting losses that we always get. So these are getting to know your soil structures, we've mentioned, getting to know available nutrients in the soil, practicing conservation agriculture where it is minimum to zero tillage, things like, for example, soil health, water management, which is very critical for you to get it done right. Then automatically that way, then you start having very little losses, because then if you are also doing something that very few farmers do, is called scouting, then you can be able to understand which pests, which diseases are affecting your crops, and you can take action faster.
Okay. I think now the farmers have at least a background about the climate smart agriculture. Sorry. And let's talk about
Conservation, yeah.
Conservative, the climate, is it?
Conservation agriculture.
Conservation and culture.
Yes.
Yeah.
Culture.
And agriculture.
And conservation and culture.
Okay, culture fits somewhere in agriculture.
Yes, automatically. Actually yesterday I was talking to the producer, and we were just talking about the relevance of all these things in what we do.
Yeah.
And he mentioned something very interesting: culture and agriculture.
Very interesting.
So first of all, agriculture is already a culture.
Yeah, because it's
a culture of
agri and
exactly.
Culture.
But however, we also have the aspects of where we come from, where traditionally where you come from. For example, where I come from, we never used to have fridges. I mean, not very few communities had fridges, if they had.
Why?
See now, this
Okay.
is an edge difference.
Okay, is it about the era?
Exactly,
or
the era that we were in. Fridges were not a common in every household. But now even our fathers, they did not even see fridges. I even think there's some people who never thought they would see a fridge because electricity was not available.
Yeah.
Then what do you store?
Mm-hmm.
You know, so there were different ways of storing food. There were different ways of preserving seeds.
Mm-hmm.
There were different ways of plowing,
Mm-hmm.
and that is where now we even tractors was like, it just came the other day. We didn't have tractors long time ago. That is where we had healthy food.
Mm-hmm.
The nutrients was there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's a lot of if you talk to people about how they preserve seed.
Mm-hmm.
For example, where I farm in Kajiado,
Mm-hmm.
I see
Where in Kajiado?
a place called Ngatataek.
Hmm?
Ngatataek after
Ngat-
Bisiri. Ngatataek.
I stayed with Maasai's for like 4 years.
Wow.
Still, I can't.
You cannot even speak their language.
Okay, I can
I'm on
relate.
the Juma Olimi.
I can't really speak, but I can
And relate what they're
get,
saying somehow.
Yeah. You can get
Interesting.
one or two things.
Yes.
You know, Bantus and Nylons somehow.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, so
At a time,
yes, so you find that the way they preserve the seeds is very different from what people in Western Kenya do to preserve the seeds.
Mm-hmm.
So when how do they preserve the seeds? They get the maize when it's dry, harvested, then they put them in they hang them on the trees
Mm-hmm.
for a whole season, 5 months.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when they tell you that that seed is ready for planting.
Planting.
So there's that preservation of seed,
Mm-hmm.
which I hear is also something that is being fought really hard.
Mm-hmm.
There's also different ways of even preserving food. For example, for us, where I come from, we did not know how to roast meat, but
Mm-hmm.
we preserved meat using smoke. So the firewood is about to get finished after cooking. Then you put the meat on the side. Then it's smoked slowly. I don't know if that's what it's called. I don't know. I'm not sure. Yeah, something like that. Yeah. So that was it. So you have to understand that. Oh yes. Oh, so this is what it means. Even the planting seasons, they were guided by the fact that food was required at a certain time of the year in plenty, because there would be a drought or it would be dry. So you'd have to plant really well enough. I mean, long term, it was even most were even guided by their planting dates based on the cultural practices that they have. So they would tell you probably on this particular day of the year or of next month, you need to start preparing the land. And then at this certain time, then you need to make sure you have the seeds, fertilizer ready to plant, so that you don't miss. You get so that you don't miss out on that preparation early in advance, planting at the right time, and harvesting. But over the years, agriculture has become a commercial venture.
Yeah.
So I don't plant to eat; I plant to sell. Okay.
Yeah.
So that already it tells you that the mentality that we have is not to eat food; it is actually to sell it. So that already, when you look at it very critically, then culture plays a very big role. Because long time you would be given, if you're being gifted a chicken, you'd be given a chicken, a cock, and a hen. Okay.
Yeah.
Because what you're being given is to go and multiply.
Yeah.
But these days, because chicken are few, you are given one.
Yeah, someone doesn't even care.
Yes.
Either it's maybe a chick.
Yes.
Minimum, like it's a minimum like of age.
Yes.
Months.
Yes.
It hasn't even identified if it's going to be a cock.
Yes. Exactly.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So culture plays a very important role. But this is a topic, the whole topic to discuss about culture and agriculture, and then the different seasons, planting seasons. Also in Kitale might be different from here in Kajiado.
Yeah.
Or in Meru probably. There are crops that can be grown because of cultural activities, like we see the Mira and Mogoka being grown in Meru, Embu. It will be very hard to get that done at the same scale in another county. You can imagine in Kakamega you have Mogoka.
Okay.
Or Kitale.
So
okay. Look at even coffee was grown in some specific. So there's a cultural aspect of it, which I think one of these days we will ask the producer to tell us more about what that looks like. But again, it's something that is critical that we need to look at.
Very. And I think, what's your take on the introduction of GMO?
I'm a brand ambassador of
Of
Alliance for Science.
Mhm.
So Alliance for Science, what they do is that it fights misinformation.
Mhm.
So the GMO debate
Mhm.
is full of a lot of misinformation.
Mhm.
A lot of misinformation. In fact, that is the one of the things that has gotten the most misinformed communities. So there are two things about the GMO,
Mhm.
which we also have to really understand really well,
Mhm.
is that our soils have been depleted of the necessary nutrients.
Mhm.
Our soils have been infected by soil-borne diseases that can almost render our planting activities
Mhm.
useless.
Mhm.
So what does GMO come in to do? GMO, or rather gene editing, is to modify that seed
Mhm.
so that it can be resistant, or rather, resistant to the soil-borne diseases
Mhm.
or the pest infestations. For example, imagine if there's a seed that you can grow of maize that does not attract the fallen worm. Would you buy?
Yeah, well.
Exactly. So we have to understand that the whole GMO debate is not about that you that you get six fingers.
Okay, I think
Do you need GMO food to
African,
get?
Kenyans,
You
we
know, so
always.
so so that information bit is very critical, very
Mhm.
important for us to look
Mhm.
at.
I think we'll book a segment for each. We
Yes,
go into details. And
but also on the flip side,
Mhm.
we should also look at, so the GMO, is it good or bad?
Yeah.
So we ask ourselves, is it the right time to start producing or farmers planting GMO?
Mhm.
Can something happen to our soils so that we don't need the GMO seed?
Mhm.
But again, it is also a business venture
Mhm.
when it comes to GMO, because then you find that somebody who is interested in selling
Mhm.
um, the GMO, you might not even be interested in selling, but just want to make some money out of it, will be pro GMO. The others will be against. So it's basically misinformed communities out there,
Mhm.
which would be very important to consider and see that it's not it's working out well.
Okay. Let's when it comes to farmers, to our today's main topic,
Mm.
what do you think farmers are supposed to do to adapt to this climate change?
Wow. So for farmers to adopt is not a hard thing,
Mhm.
but it will take some time, because it has to be done as communities and not just individual farmers.
Mhm.
So number one of the things that farmers can be able to do is diversification of crop and livestock.
Mhm.
So if you know that it's going to be dry, hot, and that, if you can offload the cows or the sheep or the livestock
Mhm.
early in advance. Don't wait for deaths, for the animals to start dying, for you to start disposing.
Mhm.
That's one. So you diversify with the crops that you're growing. If you're growing crops that are pro water,
Mhm.
then you can actually, on the flip side, work around it
Mhm.
and make sure that you're growing crops that can survive longer periods without water. The other thing is the other thing is to make sure that you also work with different peers. Peers meaning different farmers in different regions. They will advise you more in terms of how they are coping, and you can also be able to understand how that can be done really well. The other thing is also identifying role models, probably, and when you talk about role models, then it means that we are also focusing on the right thing, because these role models are farmers. If you're a farmer, then a role model could only be another farmer. It cannot be someone who is sitting in an office. Yeah. So those are some of the things that you can also consider in brief.
Okay. As an expert in climate change, in this campaign we are trying to mobilize. What do you think is the type of climate that really affects both livestock and crops?
Negatively or positively?
Either way. Let's start with the negative, then go to the positive.
So the negatives, definitely excess conditions, weather conditions. If it's water, it shouldn't be too much.
Yeah.
because you need to plant, transplant, then harvest. So you can imagine it's harvesting when when it's raining.
Definitely,
Quite a number of huge losses.
Products will
Yes. If it is dry, it is manageable because then you can water.
What
You know, a place
the
where it's
borehole will also dry.
sasa hiyo ni ile siku tu. But see, chances are you can do better. Yes. So for me, I would say probably it's how do I put it? It's when it comes to the positives, yes, there are quite a number of positives in terms of different climate conditions that are there. The negatives, the same. There are also some. But for me personally, I would prefer to farm where it's hot because I can control my watering. I can be able to control even the pests, you know, and the production bit. Yeah, I would definitely go for a hot area.
So you mean like, for instance, today someone gave you 20 acres in North Rift.
Yes.
And 20 in, let's say,
Bisim.
Kajiado.
I'll go for Bisim.
For real.
Automatically,
Like,
without a doubt.
North Rift is more productive than.
Who said it is more productive?
Like it's saying.
Well, who said it's
In
productive?
the records.
So why are we having maize shortage?
That's why you are here to at least enlighten these people.
You know, maize in North Rift you can only harvest maize once a year. In Kajiado you can harvest twice. That's the difference. So if this farmer in North Rift has all resources and gets 40 bags per harvest, and this one has all and harvests 35 bags, this one has 70 bags the same year as this one has 40. Hesabu ndogo ya haraka haraka. You know, it's very simple. A farmer in the colder areas are spending less money on watering because it's cool. But they can only get 40 bags. My friend, you cannot get 70 bags in an acre.
You can.
How?
I think you can.
70 in 1 acre.
In 1 acre.
No, it's impossible.
Okay, if you, let's say you plant the method I was talking about, 333.
You can't. You cannot. Because you need 22,000 plants in an acre. So for you to get 44, you have to plant twice. Because there's the recommended spacing. You see, even in a lift, you're told 20. If you exceed by 1 kilo, inakata. So what it can do is that I would at any given time get a farming Kajiado.
Okay. What do you think can be done, or what care do you think should be taken to avoid this such previously mentioned stress in the climate changes can be done?
I'll point out 2 main things. Number 1, training, capacity building on behalf of farmers. The other one is dedicate enough resources for extension services.
What do you think are the barriers to this climate adaptation thing?
Misinformation, automatically, because farmers have not yet. And this misinformation doesn't mean that somebody has said something bad. No, it just means that they're not well informed.
Get it right.
Yes.
Yeah.
And on the flip side, also, then they don't have what is it called? They don't. What is the word? But anyway, yes. So information is very important on how to, where to. So where to get land, test your soil, how to use the right fertilizer, the varieties, the crops that you want to grow. All that on its own has to make sure that it's working for these farmers. Yeah.
Or do you think like the language maybe can be one of the barriers?
Yes, definitely. And I always say some of the holy books have been translated to really local dialects. Why would we not do that for farmers?
So in short,
translate it into the language that farmers at local level, at the ward village level, can understand.
think it's farmers who doesn't want to follow up and you know
Push,
plan, get the
push it to them.
information.
Push it to them. Tell then come out saying they don't want.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's.
But
But there's a proverb that says, "Simlazimishe ng'ombe kunywa maji."
yes. So you
There's
see,
that saying.
do you know why?
Mhm.
And it is very important for us not to do that. Walazimisha. But however, we also have to guide them. And that's the reason why we need to have demonstration farms in these areas that we're like, wow, that has grown here. Like I saw watermelon in Githunguri and I was shocked. And it was 14 kilos.
Wow.
Yes. Yeah, so it's a bit of a thin line, but now it's very possible.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, now, what's your view on this whole topic of climate change and the overview?
Climate change.
Yeah, and your view, like, what do you take? And your take on this, and maybe the solutions that can be done better to improve them in farming, agriculture, first.
I think we have to just be serious.
Serious in terms.
As a government, as farmers, we have to be a bit serious. And number one, make sure that whatever food you say you are, that is meant to be grown, whatever is supposed to be grown, it has to be accompanied by guidance on how to grow it, how to take care of it, how to sell it, how to store it.
Okay.
Yeah. Because if we don't give these farmers information, it's like going to a factory and the people who are producing something are not being shown how it can work. You understood? Have I made sense? Okay.
Again.
So if a phone comes with a manual,
yeah.
so you decide whether to use it or not. Why don't you? Why have you ever used a manual for your phone? When you buy a phone, do you ever use a manual?
I've never.
Why?
Okay, because I already have a concept of how to use a phone, so I don't see the reason why I should just read those pages.
That is the same
and
thing.
like-
That is the same thing with farmers. But now, when your phone gets messed up, what do you do?
take it to to an expert and be like
Exactly, because
repair
number one, you throw away the receipt.
so you can the manual.
No, yes, but also the receipt, because that's part of what you have.
Yeah, true.
So you can't claim to be given a new one, a new phone, because labda you are one like us who stay with phones for 3 years or 5 years, as in we only change phones when they're stolen. Yeah. So that information is very important, very critical information in all aspects of the value chains, different value chains. Very important. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Wow. Climate change. It's been a very fantastic topic.
Yes.
It's been nice having you around.
Thank you very much.
I know 1 or 2 or 3 farmers you've been able to learn some 2-3 things that are going to impact you, and it's going to give you an overview of what you're supposed to be doing in the near future, and especially now that you're facing the change in climate. What are you supposed to be doing? What is your plan? We've talked about effects of the changes, the resilience, the adaptation. I hope you're going to take them into consideration and make a choice. And as Noah said, you don't have to be resilient. You have to be adaptive.
Yes.
So adapt. Don't be resilient.
Don't just stick there into resilience. Doing what?
Resilience is the heartbreak part. Thanks for having me around.
Thank you very much for having me.
It's a pleasure.
Asante sana.
Always
looking forward to talking to farmers.
Okay.
Yep.
It's a pleasure having you.
Thanks.
Day in, day out.
Yep.
Maybe you can mention your social media platforms.
At Nasialin,
follow you.
I was told that when I was coming up, I was told to read a proverb of the day. And I was told, teeth do not see poverty. So it says, even when circumstances are dire or hard, people still manage to find something to smile about.
Okay.
So we don't go there getting too much stress. Smile about something.
Smile. You
Yes.
smile.
So if you want to
smile,
follow me on Noah Nasiali Kadima. Again, I said it is the only page on the social media platforms. It's only one page, Noah Nasiali Kadima.
Okay.
Yes.
See you in the next
Thanks.
video
Next time.
or the
Yes.
next segment. We'll invite you. We talk about GMO.
Yes.
Yeah, we have to take
In fact, I'll bring for you some samples.
you should be there. You should be there. Don't make sure you don't miss this one.
Yes.
We need to get the correct information about GMO. Personally, I'm misinformed. If I decide to talk about it,
Yes.
we'll see you in the next video. Robert is our top fan today. Thank you for being there. Thank you for watching. And you can always be getting these shout outs when you are our top fan. Robert today takes home the crown, and hope you maintain it.
Yes. Fantastic.
My name is Boss Queen. See you in the next segment, same time, same place. And remember to follow our social media handles at Farmers Media. And also don't forget to follow me at BossQueen_KE on all social media platforms. See you. Bye bye.
Conservation agriculture is a way of farming that keeps nutrients and moisture in your soil. It's also a good way of controlling pests and diseases. The three main principles are minimum tillage, mulching, and crop rotation. With minimum tillage, you only disturb the soil where you will be planting. You can do this with a reaper or using a djembe. The second principle is called mulching. This means that you cover your soil with leftover residues such as leaves or maize stovers. This protects your soil from the hot sun while holding moisture in the ground. The mulch material will break down and add nutrients to your soil. Crop rotation is the third principle. You shouldn't plant the same crop on the same piece of land year after year. Instead, rotate between different crop families each season. If you follow these simple principles, you can be certain of healthier soil and higher yields in the long run. The heart of any shamba lies in its soil. Because soil is so precious, it needs to be managed really carefully. A good place to start is with a soil test. This will tell you how healthy your soil is, its pH levels, what type of soil it is, which crops you can grow in your soil, and advice on which fertilizer is best to use. If you follow the soil test recommendations, it can boost your yields. So, how do you take a soil test sample? Firstly, dig up soil samples. Use a soil auger or panga to take a sample 1 feet deep in a zigzag pattern across your shamba. You will need at least 10 samples. Mix all the different samples together in a bucket. The soil is now ready to be scanned and tested. You can find out about how to get your soil tested by contacting your extension officer. Alternatively, contact a Ministry of Agriculture research station near you. A soil test costs about as much as 1 bag of maize. You should do a soil test at least every 3 to 5 years.
Have you felt that the climate has been changing? Perhaps the dry season seems hotter. The rains are too late, or too early, too little, or don't come at all.
You're seeing more pests and diseases on your shamba. All of this can lead to less yields.
By managing your water and soil, you can ensure that your shamba is still productive. This could be as simple as harvesting water from your roofs, investing in solar irrigation, and practicing conservation agriculture such as mulching, crop rotation, and minimum tillage.
Trees are also a part of smart farming and can help you make your farm cooler, keep your soils intact and healthy. Planting fodder crops and turning grasses into hay or silage is another smart way of adapting.
But be aware that even with smart farming, some things will remain out of your control. That's why it's a good idea to think about insurance, as this can cover you from these unforeseen events.
Good soil and water management, along with planting trees and pest and disease control, can also help you increase your yields and income as the climate changes.